Hello listeners, it's Lewis. Just a quick message before we start to say, you may have noticed that since dropping all 5 seasons of The Muppet Show on Disney Plus on February 19th, Disney has now decided to swap the order of episodes from its syndication order to its production order, which means that our first episode last week and the subsequent 2 episodes that we've pre-recorded, including this one, are now not in the same order you will find them presented to you on Disney Plus. So, rather than find ourselves in a deficit, we've decided we will post this week's episode covering Sandy Duncan, which is now episode 14 online, followed by our Gym Neighbours episode next week, now episode 6, before resuming the season from the start in production order. Got that? No, us either. Anyway, we hope you enjoy the now not quite so chronological but still very explorational and conversational Muppetsational. Hello and welcome to Muppetsational, the Muppet Show podcast, hosted by 3 huge Muppet fans. Join us each week as we dive into an episode of Jim Henson's classic variety show, now finally available on Disney+. This week, it's Series 1, Episode 2, starring the marvellous Sandy Duncan. It's time to get things started on the chronological, explorational, conversational Muppetsational!
Woo! Yay! Woo woo!
Yay! Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Muppetsational. I am Lewis Chandler.
I am Jade Turner.
And I'm Emma Chandler.
And this week we are here to discuss Episode 2, starring the wonderful Sandy Duncan. The episode was originally broadcast on the 19th of September, 1976. It was the 3rd episode shown in the original broadcast run, but the production code lists it as the 14th episode made. But in subsequent re-releases and syndications, it has now become Episode 2. Jade, give us some more information.
So this episode was directed by Peter Harris, and the writing team on this one was Jack Burns, Mark London, Jim Henson, and Jerry Jewell. And I have to admit, to start off this conversation, I do not know Sandy Duncan. She is not someone who
is Sandy Duncan? I'm so sorry. I had to Google her. I'm going to put my hands up now. I'm really sorry, Sandy. I did not know who you were. But might I say, you have had an interesting career because you've been on Broadway, you've been a dancer, you've been in a revival of Peter Pan, you've been on TV shows, You've been everywhere.
Sandy Duncan, no idea who she was before I got here, and I feel terrible because frankly, she's prolific Broadway and television actress known for stage and sitcom work. And here's a fun fact, she can only see out of her right eye.
What?
So, okay, this is according to Wikipedia, but it seems to be cited, so I think it's legit. She
cited.
Had an operation for
cited.
Is that not?
Oh, we're leaving this in. This is hilarious.
Cited.
I did an arts degree, okay. But whatever, I'm just saying I got a first from York University. So, whatever. So,
anyway,
my dissertation was a play. So
back to Sandy.
Back to Sandy. Sorry, Sandy would be allowed my digression. This is going to sound terrible now because we're laughing. She had a brain tumour.
Oh no!
So she had an operation where they had to go behind her left eye. Emma's looked like she's going to
that's really bad.
And apparently they damaged her left eye so she could Oh, sorry, Emma is going.
Oh my god!
Emma's freaking out. Emma is literally like flapping her arms, like anything to do with surgery.
I'm getting sweaty.
But they found that she could no longer see out of her left eye. But unlike most sort of accidents or sort of operations where if they damage the eye, it no longer tracks. Like, if you know what I mean, it no longer looks this right or left. Her left eye, despite the fact she couldn't see out of it anymore, still tracked with her right eye. So rather than replacing it with a, brace yourself, Emma, prosthetic eye, they just kept it in. They kept it in. So when you think of over everything that she's doing in this episode, she's doing it with the vision of one eye. So I think that already is quite iconic.
That is very impressive,
isn't it?
And I mean, especially working with Muppets, because I think there's something about, you know, when you're working with human-sized performers.
You mean
I
humans?
guess there's some.
Oh no, you mean Muppets.
Well, I mean, you know, if you're working with humans,
yes,
they're at your height, and they're, you know, if they're in your periphery or whatever, they're obviously up there, aren't they? Whereas working with Muppets, on the whole, they're an awful lot further down.
I
so
understand
I feel like...
what you're saying now. I was very lost.
Her spatial awareness is very good. That's what we're saying.
Thank you, Emma, for putting it far more succinctly than I did and really confused Lewis.
That's okay. But the thing is, though, obviously you've just told us that, Lou, and at one point she was in a revival of Peter Pan. So was she? Do they fly in Peter Pan?
Emma.
Does Peter fly?
Emma, absolutely they fly.
Wow. No, but that's amazing though. If she did that after,
yeah. So that happened
losing
in
the sight in one of her eyes as well.
1970 or 71, apparently.
Ooh.
So I know.
Wow.
So when she came to do this in 1976, yeah. I mean, speaking of spatial awareness, Jade, or Emma, more succinctly, that first musical number alone, is it called like A Girl Like Me or A Place Like This or A Girl Like Me?
A Nice Girl Like Me.
Oh, my theme tune. What a chaotic, incredible, ridiculous opening.
It's insane.
I loved
it's
it.
really good fun. I think, last week we spoke about having the Muppet-sized man with the Muppet head performing with Rita Moreno. But I think with this one, like, you obviously had Sweetums involved, but those purple and orange crazy, again, full-size Muppet costumes, I was like, what is this? What is happening? And also, where is this bar? Because this is truly chaos. Like, this is on another level.
Emma, I don't know if you know what I'm going to mean by this, but in the first half of the song, she had this kind of like Mary Poppins energy, where like the way she was like being lifted and then like twirling. Do you know what I mean? It had a Julie Andrews-esque air to it.
I do. I had that feeling right the way through the episode, to be honest. But I'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, I do agree with you. It was, the bit where she's lifted and spun.
Yes.
I'm sure that's literally straight out of Mary Poppins.
And then she whips off her trousers and she's wearing what I believe is the campest and one of my most it's not even my favourite costume for this episode. It is my favourite costume for women to wear ever. Long black pants and then tights, like sort of fishnet tights and like high heels, which they then just do like modern jazz dance to. Like she's like, kapow! Like, it was just so weird. Like she's dancing in fishnets in like a biker bar.
But also, on top of that, they're doing like full-on Broadway choreography. Not only is it sort of Julie Andrews-esque, but the choreography that she and the Muppets are doing is like full-on razzle-dazzle, like straight off Broadway. Like,
it's Gwen Verdon. It's like full-on like Gwen Verdon energy. Emma, isn't it? Exactly. It's not even...
It totally is. That is it in a nutshell. It is. It's full-on Broadway, full-on jazz hands, full-on interpretive dance.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly what I mean. Like jazz modern, like, pow, a couple of these, and whoa. Like, I realise this is not a visual medium, but I am doing this fully. And she was being flipped round, and then she was doing like the 8 shots in a row, and then all the other biker Sweetums Muppets just sort of like fall to the ground and she's there like with a little like bent leg being like, oh gee, like Sandy Duncan has very much oh gee energy, like oh gee you guys.
Her breathing on them with her whiskey fire breath was very amusing. I thought when she breathed on them and they all fell over. But it just also, I guess it was just so incongruous that this very petite, slender, Peter Pan elf-like woman had downed all of these drinks and then had the breath to knock out all of these huge monsters. Like, I just loved it. It's just like, this is hysterical.
It's like the combination of like what the sort of like golden age MGM musical starlets looked like on screen, and then what they also were like in real life, where they were all just like drunks. She was like both sides of Debbie Reynolds. Like she's a hoofer and also maybe an alcoholic. A hoofer. That is what Sandy Duncan? Sandy Duncan is a hoofer. So we've got to Swedish Chef already, apparently.
You're skipping forward, Lewis. You're skipping forward.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it was quite a start to the episode. Well, and also that's following Crazy Harry blasting Kermit into Statler and Waldorf's box as well, which I absolutely loved. Like, it just completely blindsided me, and I was like, oh, there he goes. Okay, yeah.
I always wondered what the show looked like from up here. Oh, and then I love that it had obviously it did. It had like that sort of 1970s like camera flare from when the explosion goes off because the camera can't quite capture the explosion quick enough, so it just has this like Doctor Who-y style sort of like like where it just sort of like can't quite catch up with the flash of light. Oh, it was a very, very chaotic opening. Yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah, and I feel like in a way it kind of, well, not to jump ahead, but on the whole I feel like this episode was far more kind of up and down in terms of the quality of certain sketches. Whereas in the first episode, I think, you know, as we said last time, there's this relatively high quality level that they're hitting throughout. Like, yeah, there's a couple of moments that you don't enjoy as much. This was far more just generally a bit more sporadic and all over the place, I felt like. And
really
actually
sporadic.
that opening kind of captures that. You know, you've got Crazy Harry, Kermit and Statler and Waldorf very high, Sandy Duncan, I don't even know how to succinctly describe it, but that, you know, again, it starts off pretty high, but you're on quite an uneven footing, I think, off the back of that. And then when you get into it, then you're just like, what is happening? What is going on? Like, yes, the anarchy is in full flow in this episode, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Did anybody else clock the slightly cringe-inducing button joke that Waldorf and Statler had after a good... what's the name of the song again? A good girl like me.
A nice girl like me, yeah.
A nice girl like me.
Yeah.
It's... It makes me want to go off and get a young girl. And he leaves to go and get a young... It's just... Ooh.
It's very 70s. It's very, very creepy. And when we were watching it, I looked over to my boyfriend Rich and was like, what just happened? Like, and then also like he's leaving the box, like, no, that's not allowed, but also too, like, he's specifically leaving the box to go and get a young girl. No. Like,
it was very 1970s.
Oh yeah, that was not good by any stretch of the imagination. I was very, very put off by that Statler and Waldorf joke. And then, to be completely honest, not that the Gags Beasley banana sketch thing is on the same level in terms of dodgy 70s humour, but oh my life, it just kept going. Like, how on earth was that the runner throughout this whole episode was about Gags Beasley and the banana sketch? Lord alive, surely this can't just be me that found this. Oh,
I know. I don't know who made the decision creative decision to have that as like the running gag, but no, it was terrible. It was definitely weak. It wasn't funny. I didn't think it was funny, and I don't think Kermit found it funny either. And it just wasn't believable. It was like trying to make a gag, but it just didn't work.
It went on too long. Yeah, I understand it's the runner, but the joke never really developed more than Kermit doesn't know what this is. Now, apart from when the actual sentient banana came like bopping onto screen, I was completely happy with that. If anything, would have preferred more sentient bananas to pop up and just be lifting the absurdity a bit more. Like if you'd seen like a dozen of them like all come across the screen being like, oh sorry, pardon me, out the way, gotta get like that would be fine, even with their little like floppy banana skins being like arms. And then even the payoff at the end where they give Sandy Duncan a bouquet of bananas, I was like, that's what we've been building to. Like this was like we didn't.
I will say I felt like the talk spot with obviously Fozzie and Sandy just collapsing into giggles, and it went on for too long. Yeah, but that was probably, other than, well, and actually hold on, I'll get to the other bit that I did enjoy with it. But I did enjoy that, although then I was like, okay, I've laughed at them cracked up, like move on, like it was just too long. And I will be honest, I love it when Kermit loses it. And we got our first snippet of that with Piggy trying to poke Kermit, and then he just explodes at her. And that was a lot of fun. But again, I kind of feel like for having to watch it throughout the entire episode, for those sort of very small snippets, it wasn't worth it.
It wasn't.
It just felt like filler, didn't it? It just felt like the same one note filler the whole time.
Yeah, definitely.
When it got introduced, Jade, you might know this. Who was the old Eastern European lady watching Fozzie from backstage being like, the banana sketch? Who was she?
I have no idea. I wondered that too. And
that was so random.
Like, what is her job? Why is she here? Is she related to someone? Like, I've never seen that Muppet before in my life.
I wonder if well, I mean, I wonder if we'll see her in future episodes. And if you're listening and you know who she is, maybe let us know. Yeah.
Please do, because we didn't have a bloody clue.
Let's move on from the banana joke, because I think the banana sketch went on long enough in the actual episode. We don't need to stretch it out any longer.
Let's make like a banana and split.
Ba-boom.
That's all this bit deserves.
That's terrible.
You're terrible.
That might have been funnier than the actual banana sketch in the episode, mind.
No, the sentient banana was almost worth it, but not enough.
Yeah, not enough.
So we've now had 2 episodes in a row where Swedish Chef uses firearms in his cooking. Is this just something he did in the 70s a lot?
Oh, I know.
I don't know.
It was so random. To make a donut.
Yeah. It might just be a consequence of it being a variety show, and so things have been put in different order, like the episode's been broadcast at different times originally. Although I think actually it would have run third after... Yeah, it still ran just the week after Rita Moreno's episode, even though it was the 3rd episode. Just to use the gun twice as the sort of payoff to the joke was a bit bizarre. Maybe he uses the gun all the time. Maybe that's what we're going to find out.
I don't know if there's that many holy foods, though. Like, being serious, how many more foods can he shoot a hole in and then be like, it's a donut?
Well, to be fair, he shot the flapperjackers down.
That's true. He did shoot the
roof.
flapperjackers down off the roof.
And this week he used a gun to put a hole through the donut. What else could he use the gun for? I'm now really...
I think we're going to find out.
I have no doubt.
I mean, at the very least, they could get him a different weapon to use. You know, like, I don't know. He could have, like, a sword. I don't know.
He could do some shish kebab on a sword. I love a meat sword. Oh, God. Oh, no.
That is staying in.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Shut up. I stand by it. I stand by it.
I was just going to make a joke about it would be fun to hear the Swedish Chef saying shish kebab, but I think you've already topped it, so we're going to move on.
Shish kebab. Yeah. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, let's quickly.
And then we had another Dancing Muppets sketch, which already, we're only 2 episodes in, and I'm quite frankly fairly irritated by them. But I will say... the best part of it was Animal at the end with the falling for you, and when he was directing to fall backwards and sideways, and I guess it's just Muppet silliness, but I appreciated the Muppet silliness.
I liked his little ditzy partner though. She seemed like a fun gal. she was a redhead. She was like, oh, that was fun. I was like, oh, she seems nice. Like, I bet I'd have a good time with her. Like, just going out and getting
definitely
drunk.
up for anything, I think, if she's happy to.
Oh, she's been to that biker bar a few times. Her and Sandy Duncan have been propped up at that bar, just knocking back a few.
And falling off their
swapping
stools.
tails from backstage. Very good. Nice. And then we move on to a sketch that I can basically understand to be Sweetums has poor body image, and Sandy Duncan helps him with some really 1970s advice.
I loved this. I felt like, yes, definitely very 70s. But I felt like throughout the whole episode, like we were saying, like Sandy Duncan's this kind of like Mary Poppins happy figure. Well, not that Mary Poppins is that happy. That's a whole other conversation. Let's not worry about that right now. But she's sort of designed to make people feel better, which I think even got mentioned in her introduction at the very start of the episode, that she makes you feel good. And it just felt like this really, it was a bit weird. But this really leaned into that kind of like, that sense of her being this very sweet, angelic, like, I'm going to make everything better kind of vibe, and then finish with a pie in the face, which, you know, obviously is a classic sketch ending. But the other reason I think I loved it was that I loved her dress. Like, I just loved what she was wearing in this sketch. It was amazing. It was
puffy sleeves.
It was pink, and it had the puffy sleeves with the little cuffs.
It was
and
fantastic.
Had the lovely square neck, and she had her little tan wedges on, and she looked adorable. And also, I just realised that when I worked in Topshop in the early 2010s, this was exactly what we were selling. So, you know, when everyone was like, it's a 70s revival, and I was like, oh, is it? It just looks kind of boho chic. I'm like, no, it was. It all modelled on Sandy Duncan's Muppet Show performance, apparently.
I mean, I would wear all of her outfits. I'd love to. Is there anything more 1970s than a flower drooping to the sound of a whistle? Because that to me just exemplified like a variety show punchline, like a swanny whistle to something drooping or rising back up again. I was like, oh my God, as if this is actually happening. Even the flowers don't like me.
You've got to love it when it goes from the live dog to the Muppet dog biting Sweeten's hand.
My boyfriend Peter did notice the cut that time. He wasn't confused at the fact that it went from a Muppet to from a real living creature to a Muppet to it. So he got that one this week. That was good.
That's good. I'm glad. I was going to check in with you and ask whether Peter noticed that. So that's fine. So he's better with animals than humans.
He grew up on a farm. It's why. I made a joke between our recording of last week's episode and this one. I did meant to tell Peter that I had mentioned it. He's like, oh, great. So everybody's going to... I was like, yeah, I've now started a weekly feature called My Stupid Boyfriend. I was like, of course not. I just thought it was an interesting perspective that you didn't notice that it went from a man to a Muppet. Anyway, he's not stupid. I love him very much.
We can start a weekly feature though if he wants.
Yeah.
We can.
I'm not starting My Stupid Boyfriend.
We don't have to call it that. We don't have to call it that. We can call it Did Peter Notice?
Did Peter Notice? That's just that's 1970s advice Sandy Duncan is what you're coming with. It's like he may be stupid, but don't worry, it's okay. He's not stupid, but it's like, you may be terrifyingly ugly on the outside, but don't worry, if you have a sunny disposition, nobody will mind. It's like, oh great, so I'm so glad I have to change myself, to be more appealing to the masses so people are nice to me. What a horrible way to say he was upset and still the flowers didn't like him. The 70s sucked for advice. Stupid Sandy Duncan.
She got a pie in the face at the end of it, Lewis,
exactly.
all right?
She deserved more. She deserved more pies. They should have ruined that gown.
No, never.
It was so pretty, not the gown.
Speaking of ruined, what the flip was up with Gonzo?
I think so I've been reading the Jim Henson biography, and it kind of mentions about the fact that when Dave Goelz started doing Gonzo, he really was this sort of unknown character. And obviously, like, you can hear it in this episode, Gonzo's voice is really high. He's quite furry on top, like more furry than we're used to seeing Gonzo.
I mean, that was what he looked busted.
Yeah.
He looked like he'd been on a 3-day bender and then been made to sing this song at a piano. He looked like me at drama school when I was hungover and we had singing, where you have to just gamely get yourself through a character song and you're like, please just let me die. I didn't get to sleep until 4 a.m. and I fell asleep on the night bus. Please. I just don't want to sing this song right now. Don't make me sing Mr. Cellophane, please.
Do you know what I wrote down? And I don't know whether you're going to agree with me or not, but I wrote down, sounds a bit like Adam Sandler doing a silly voice.
Yeah.
Like when Adam Sandler does his stupid, silly voices. That was what Gonzo sounded like to me while he was singing Nobody. That, again, was the UK spot for this episode, so that didn't go out originally in the States.
In that case, I think the US had a lucky break, to be honest, because Jesus Christ, it just didn't end. It's so weird. Even his eyes didn't look straight.
Yeah, I think that was another thing that the book said, that they worked on his eyes.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I think they hadn't quite got to click to start with, was basically just Gonzo overall, but especially around the hair, the eyes, the voice.
Yeah. He's
kind of there, but he's also very much not at this point, I think.
It's like he hasn't been put in the oven yet. Do you know what I mean? It looks like the meal you're gonna have, but it's not done yet. It's getting there. It needs the 40 minutes at 180.
I think my favourite part of that was when Rolf joined in with his howling.
It ended?
Yeah. And then it ended.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I think we're going to talk about my favourite bit next, which is the skit of Never Smile at a Crocodile. I have to say, this was one bit of the episode that made me laugh and smile, and I just love the fact that you had the little cute girl Muppet riding, sat on the crocodile as he then chomped on the frogs, while singing the song. I love the bit where he opened his mouth up and then you had the two frogs singing along inside his mouth as well. I mean, what more could you ask for?
You got it all.
Exactly.
In a 3-part harmony.
You have.
They seem to have chucked a lot of... Well, it looked really, expensive,
Well,
this skit.
It did and it didn't, because I was really drawn by the fact the actual reeds and the swampiness of it kept blocking the puppets. So it was almost like
Yes.
I agree they'd kind of thrown a lot at it, but then I was like, they haven't actually blocked it or designed it that well, because then you were actually hiding the frogs. Like, a lot of the time I wanted to move the grass away and be like, oh, there you are, little froggy. I kind of felt like, obviously it's nothing compared to the swamp at the beginning of the Muppet movie,
No.
but I almost felt like it was a bit of a test run for that. It was we're going to try a swamp and see what it feels like.
Yeah, because when they cut to that wide shot and it lush with
Yes.
foliage, it reminded me of my flat, frankly, just plants all over the goddamn place. And there's like a misty haze as well. It was
It was cool.
Yeah, I thought they had dressed the set really well for that, actually. They'd kind of gone all in, which was nice to see.
And they did one of my favourite little bits of Muppet business, although I was a bit annoyed that the sketch let the frogs live at the end, because I kind of enjoyed the actual darkness of the crocodile eats them and then they're just there. But the bit of Muppet business where they throw a Muppet somewhere and if they land in water, you get a little water splash.
That was cool.
Just a little bit of water.
What more could you ask for?
Imagine pitching that. Just be so we're going to just do Never Smarted a Crocodile, but he's just going to eat some folks as he goes along, and there'll be a little girl on top who'll sing the first verse, and then she'll just be there for a bit. Sound good? Let's make the puppets.
Let's make some magic.
I also thought the crocodile Muppet was really cool too.
Yeah.
The texture and the detail on the Muppet was... Not saying it looked like a genuine crocodile, but it was a cool puppet. I thought it was nice.
I think if it had started to look like a genuine crocodile, then we'd be in trouble. It wouldn't be a kid's show anymore,
I was going to say,
Jade.
it would not be going out in the early evening slot in the 1970s.
I don't know, you got away with a lot of
That's
stuff
true,
in the
that
early
is true.
70s.
True, that is true.
Traumatizing children was very low on the sort of concerns of television makers at the time.
So this Muppet Newsflash... This was pure filler to me and an opportunity to get Sandy Duncan just a little bit more airtime, I think, because it
doing
was
a fun accent, at least. She's
Yes.
versatile. She was doing a Janice in episode 1. She did an accent.
She did an accent.
For an acting
man.
choice.
I feel like this was a backdoor audition for something that she had coming up where she needed that accent. It was 10 out of 10 for the accent, but other than that, oh boy, it was bad. What?
I haven't loved, in the only 2 episodes we watched so far, I haven't loved any of the news flashes yet. I've got to say, I love the news flash presenter. He's great, but the material as yet has not hit for me. And I think I just want the gags shorter, and I want them... They haven't clicked for me yet. It's like the current Weekend Update panel on SNL. I enjoy the concept of Weekend Update, but more often than not, it's not working for me.
As you said, it was too long, and with the hot plate thing, it was that's the gag.
Another very 1970s
I was going to say,
reference
that's
of
a
hot
very,
plate.
era-driven
She
gag.
might as well have been standing on some Farrah Fawcett do you know what I mean? Flick curlers. Do you know, might as...
Yeah, no, I could do without that. And to be honest, the sketch that followed, Veterinarian Hospital, for me, this iteration of this week, way below last week's. I loved the first one, as we spoke about in the last episode, but this one, I was like, oh, this is subpar.
Peter and I had an incredibly confused moment when we started watching the sketch where we both misheard the word transplant as trans man, and we were both then absolutely terrified about what the hell this sketch was doing or saying, until about halfway through we suddenly realized they'd said transplant, and we were like, oh thank God, we weren't going to get an awful 1970s. It was such a relief. So I don't think I can actually comment on the sketch itself, because Peter and I were both literally gripping onto each other what are they doing? What is happening?
Emma, I mean, you were a big fan of last week's one, Emma, so what did you make of it?
I know. Yeah, it just didn't hit this week. Last week it did make me smile and it was great. and it was like a send-up of all those terrible hospital shows. But yeah, this week it just seemed a bit muddled and forgettable, to be honest, and I was kind of sad for Dr. Bob.
I love Rolf. Look, I love Rolf and I love Dr. Bob.
Oh yeah, Rolf is amazing. It was just really poor material.
Yeah, Dr. Bob deserves better.
He does, damn it.
The only bit I did like of that sketch actually wasn't in the sketch. It was the button that followed it with Statler and Waldorf, where they cut to the balcony. And now, am I going to embarrass myself by saying I don't think I actually know which one is which in Statler and Waldorf?
I'm not sure either, to be honest.
Could you definitively say which one is?
I felt the same as well. Then I was like, I don't actually know who is who, and that going to look bad, but. If you guys don't know either, Jade, I mean, you probably might know out of all of us.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look up Waldorf. It's gonna be
I feel like we should have some like interlude music right now.
Okay. According to this, Waldorf. Okay, like how do I define the difference between these two old men Muppets? Waldorf is the one with the mustache.
Okay.
And Statler is the other one with the larger. With the more protruding nose and wider jaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and also, so Waldorf is white-haired and Statler is grey-haired.
Yes. Okay. Very good. So, and now I can't remember which one was left in the sketch. But
No.
one of them looked over the balcony and just went, "Good Lord, did he jump?" That was it. And I thought that was hilarious. That was great for me. I love that. See, that's what I want. I want bada bing, bada boom. You're in, you're out. You make the joke and then you're done. That's what we need. But I loved it. That was great for me.
We're getting near the end of this episode, which I suppose isn't massively surprising because I feel like there weren't too many highlights in it. But I did enjoy this final song. I don't know what you how you both felt about it. The try to remember between Kermit and Sandy Duncan in the field.
I felt like it had a very Sound of Music vibe. She's kind of sat there singing her song and they're all gazing adoringly up to her and like singing in the chorus. Yeah, it was very sweet end to quite a chaotic episode. Yeah. I have to say it was the complete opposite to her opening number.
She's very versatile.
She's very versatile. She's done Broadway. She's done it all.
I was just going to say, I feel like the whole episode is her just being like, I have an agent. Call me. Look at me.
It's her 26-minute show reel.
Oh my God, Jade, that's it. It's like, here's the many sides.
Sandy Duncan trying to book herself a backdoor pilot to get her own variety show.
I wonder if she did get her own. Did someone Google that? Did she get the Sandy Duncan show?
I'm sure if she did. I saw that she was on a sitcom for a while.
I don't think she ever had her own show, although I didn't do an extensive deep dive, but...
I'm basing that purely off my own opinion. Yeah. I didn't research, I just assumed she didn't have her own show. That's probably why she tried to do so much in this.
Right. Do you know what, Lewis? I'm going to check. But I did see she was on a sitcom, which is why I'm saying I don't think she got a variety show.
While you Googled that, it was actually what I thought. It's the first time we've kind of seen Muppet earnestness in the first two episodes that we've seen, which is definitely a component that we are very familiar with coming from the Muppet movies. Like there is definitely always more of an emotional heft to the films, like particularly the first Muppet movie, Muppets Christmas Carol, obviously, the 2011 Muppets. But this was the first time in the actual show, albeit we're only 2 episodes in, where I felt like, oh, we've actually paused just to have like a emotional moment. There was a little gag where when the camera first panned out and then there's suddenly like this crowd of quite sort of questionable looking all male Muppets gathered around her. Scooter looked definitely out of place amongst that bunch of reprobates. I was like, they got that creepy little blue Muppet with the pointy nose, and then Scooter at the back just being and the dog from the earlier sketch was also there. But I liked it. I thought it was a very nice song. Good ballad. Good showing off of Sandy's pipes. So, and she got to have Kermit sitting on her knee, which is always nice.
Always good fun. Yeah, for me, the best bit about the Try to Remember, other than the beautiful harmony with the Muppets, was Kermit's performance.
Yeah.
He was looking at her so lovingly, and he was just so kind of there and with her, and they had the little cuddle at the end, and I just thought it was adorable. And exactly like you say about the sort of Muppets earnestness, I completely got it from it, and it did make me feel very warm and fuzzy.
Go on, Jade. Did Sandy Duncan have her own variety show?
I can't find that she did. She did do a number of other shows, which I guess were probably very similar to this, where she either co-hosted or hosted or did as herself in some way. Mm-hmm. Shortly after this, she did work on the Liberace A Valentine special.
Sweet,
so
merciful
I
God.
guess maybe she was trying to get that across the line. Maybe when she was giving this her all,
trying to get that booking. We need to see her in a variety show context. Oh, I'll give you a variety show context. Give me my dance tights.
I also love, this is amazing, she did 45 episodes of the $10,000 Pyramid as the celebrity contestant.
Oh, I want Sandy Duncan's career. I just want to do all this weird crap.
45 episodes? That's insane. That is too many. That is too many episodes. No, Sandy.
Oh, God love Sandy Duncan. I mean, come on.
Do something else with your time.
I don't know about you two, but I've come out of this a supreme Sandy Duncan stan. Like, I think she's a hoofer. I love her. Oh my goodness.
I suppose to lead us into our MVMPs, that's our...
most valued...
What is it, Lewis?
I got too excited. It was our most valued Muppet performer.
I think for me this week it was actually Kermit, because I really enjoyed how he interacted with Sandy at the end in that final one. I also, as I've already said, loved it when he lost it at Miss Piggy with the joke. And I suppose... as we've kind of already said, like, the episode was so mixed in terms of sort of laughs and quality and content. There wasn't another standout Muppet to me, really. And I felt like Kermit, doing what Kermit does best, was holding it all together and also still making the host kind of look great and really work well. So Kermit was my MVMP for the week. Lewis, what about you?
I think, to be honest, despite the fact that I hated the running gag itself, I'm just going to go for the one scene, one line banana, just because it was such a beautiful Muppet. Like, he popped on, he had his little foldy mouth, and I love the way that the skin of his banana became his sort of like arms that just sort of like flopped in place. So for me, one line Muppet banana. Yeah, that was my MVMP. Loved him. Emma, who was your MVMP?
Funnily enough, me and Jade are agreeing again. I also said Kermit because he pretty much holds the whole thing together. Otherwise, I think it might have been a bit of a shambles, to be honest. He's kind of like his truest self. He's got all his Kermitisms. It's quite nice seeing him have his interactions with other Muppets like Miss Piggy. And also the song that he did on the end with Sandy Duncan was really sweet. And yeah, Kermit is my MVP.
Yay! I'm doing Kermit hands.
Very good. Emma, while you've got the mic, why don't you give us your rating for the episode?
Yep, I think I'm going to give it 5 Swedish chefs out of 10. Just because there are some really good bits, like Never Smile at a Crocodile and Kermit's song with Sandy, but there are some weak bits. So yeah, I think for this episode, I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. How about you, Jade?
I feel like... I'm with you. Like, I definitely don't think this episode is as good as the Rita Moreno one. Like, I think Sandy, she's clearly really engaged in giving it her all. But on the whole, I think, like, as we were saying, I think both the Muppets and maybe Sandy to a certain extent have got weaker material to work with than Rita did. I'm also... a bit like Lewis said with last week's episode, I'm kind of hedging my bets about, like, this could get worse. So I'm going to go with 6 banana bouquets out of 10 banana bouquets. Because I think there were parts of it that I really enjoyed, but I definitely, overall, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first episode. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing that there's probably going to be some hosts that are maybe not quite as game and as versatile as we've clearly established as Miss Sandy Duncan. So
Miss Sandy Duncan.
So yeah, six banana bouquets for me. Lewis, how about you?
I am with you, Jade. I'm giving it 6 1970s slide whistle wilting flowers out of 10. I think I mean, thank God for Sandy Duncan, who apparently I am now the biggest fan of. Over the course of the last, however long this podcast is, I have been convinced to my Sandy Duncan stand-up. I don't know what we call ourselves. Dunkheads? Sandy Duncan donuts? I don't know. It was a real mixed bag. I think there will be hosts that are neither as talented or engaging as Sandy Duncan to come. I feel like there will be even more busted Muppets to come. But I feel like you, Jade, I think things are going to maybe edge worse before they get better. So I'm going to give it a 6. The runner over the episode wasn't the best, but it was saved by a delightful central guest performance and some very fun sketches dotted between some not so fun sketches. Jade, why don't you close us out with some Muppet philosophy?
So this week I'm sticking again with the theme of puppetry and with the kind of, I suppose, the joy of the Muppets, which I feel like some things in this episode kind of speak to, especially with like the Never Smile at a Crocodile sketch. So another quote from Jim Henson from the Jim Henson biography by Brian J. Jones. This is from Henson, and he says, "When I hear the art of puppetry discussed, I often feel frustrated in that it's one of those pure things that somehow becomes less interesting when it is over-discussed or analysed. I feel it does what it does, and even is a bit weakened if you know what it is doing. At its best, it is talking to a deeper part of you, and if you know that it's doing that, or you become aware of it, you lessen the ability to go straight in."
Lovely.
Just think it's an interesting idea that puppetry in itself speaks to quite a deep part of us, that despite the fact we're doing a podcast all about the Muppet Show, some parts of the magic can't be overanalyzed, or you just lose the magic.
Particularly because none of us know how puppetry works.
Exactly. Wonderful.
And on that note, thank you so much for listening to Muppetsational. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, as it really helps spread the word about the podcast. You can follow us on social media. We are at Muppetsational on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. And you can contact us at hiho, that's HIHO, at muppetspodcast.com. And you can find out more about us and the podcast at muppetspodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Lewis Chandler. Goodbye.
I've been Jade Turner. We'll see you soon.
Bye from me, Emma Chandler.
We shall see you next week on another episode of Muppetsational.
Woo! Our theme music is Peppy Pepe by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork is designed by Charlotte Rudge, who you can follow at Charlie_R_Rudge on Instagram.